So this was a long time ago, but I formed a public relations agency in 1985 with Steve Jobs and his new company Next as my first client, or not my first, but probably my third client. And I grew it to be a very large firm. We ended up with 7 offices around the world. We had 250 people. We were working with every single technology company, with the exception of Microsoft, because I was kind of on the Apple side of the equation. So I never worked with Microsoft, but I worked with everybody else. And I sold it in 2000, but I was lucky enough to sell it for close to 3 times revenue, which was amazing.
In this episode, I'm talking to Andy Cunningham, founder of Cunningham Collective, a marketing consulting firm based in Silicon Valley. She's worked with companies like Cisco, Apple, Facebook, Google, and more. Her last company that she founded sold for a staggering $75 million. We're going to talk about, number 1, how she grew that first company, why she decided to sell, and what changed in her life afterwards. And number 2, we're going to talk about the secrets of networking. Andy has a personal network of over 6,000 people, ranging from CEOs, founders, VPs, investors, and more. And number 3, we're going to try to figure out the company's revenues currently and also names of some of their largest clients right now. Every time she cannot answer a question, we both have to take a shot of hot sauce. Wish me luck, Martians. I hope you enjoy this one. Hello, Martians. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today, we got a very special guest. We got the author and co-founder and founder of Cunningham Collective, a marketing consulting firm based in Silicon Valley. She's worked with companies like Cisco, Apple, BlackBerry, Google, Facebook, and the list can go on and on. Andy Cunningham. Andy, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Simon. Great to be here.
Oh man, this is so exciting. So I'm actually calling, if anyone listened to the last episode, I'm actually calling from Seoul, Korea right now. So our time zones are a little bit different. Where are you calling from today?
So I am in Lynchburg, Tennessee, the home of Jack Daniels.
Is that right?
Yes.
Does that mean we're doing shots of whiskey instead of
we have. Shall I show my hot sauce?
Yeah. Like I'll quickly show. Like I'm in Korea, so I got to represent. I got this very spicy kind of capsaicin mixed with chili pepper hot sauce.
Oh my God!
At 4 a.m. in the morning. What do you got today,
God. Simon? So Simon, I've got historic Lynchburg, Tennessee whiskey habanero hot sauce right here from Lynchburg, Tennessee.
That is amazing. Okay, actually, this is perfect. Before we even do anything, we spoke a few weeks ago. You kind of know the theme of the show. We're going to start off the show with a shot of hot sauce. This is completely sealed, so I'm going to open that up right now.
Okay.
While I'm doing that,
too.
Basically, throughout the show, I'm going to be asking you kind of tough questions on the secrets of marketing. Because as you worked with major companies, you know marketing inside and out. I want to know all the secrets, including things that you probably haven't shared in public. And every single time we cannot answer a question, we both take a shot of hot sauce and we move on to the next.
Okie doke.
By the way, have you heard of this new viral thing going around? It's an app that shows how ancient Greek sites looked like thousands of years ago, kind of like a glimpse into the past. But what do you think about AI tools like that can just
Wow.
You tell them something and it just shows something in such a surreal, like realistic way? Thoughts on that?
I think that's one of the most amazing use cases for AI. I'm one of these people who thinks that AI is going to make a huge difference in a very positive way to very many people. It's going to make a huge difference in healthcare. It's going to make a huge difference in creating content, huge difference in exploration, and also history, like what you just brought up. So education, it's going to be a huge help in education. So, of course, it can be used for evil, as all technology can. But for the most part, I think it's going to bring us to a much better place.
You've been around when Facebook was created, when Apple was created, all of these crazy technological changes, even when Google first came around.
Yes.
How do you feel about AI right now? Do you feel as excited as you were when Google first came out, or is it like 10 times surpassed that? Like, what are your
I'll
what are
give
your
you
thoughts?
the analogy. It's the same as when the internet emerged as a tool that could be used by regular people. Before regular people started using the internet, it was a military. It was used for military, and AI has been in use in places a lot in the past, but it has not been available and accessible to everybody like it is today. So it's just like the beginning of the internet. So it's an amazingly exciting time.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm so excited to get into everything. So, anyways, I got my hot sauce ready.
Okay.
I got a spoon.
Well, I'm doing mine in a cup, so just so you
Okay,
know,
that's fine.
I have it in a cup.
I'm gonna pour
I
this.
don't have a spoon. I'm in a hotel room, so
Yeah, we can see that.
okay.
Okay, all right. Cheers.
Cheers. Okay. Oh,
Oh my God.
you got a really hot one, huh?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I got a
4
little
a.m.
bit
in
of
the morning.
whiskey taste. There's a little bit of whiskey taste in mine.
Oh, you're
Hopefully
lucky.
you'll recover.
This is a little bit of I don't know. Oh my God, that is like rubber tires taste.
Oh God, that sounds awful.
Ew. Yeah. All right. So before we begin and dive into anything else, let's give a little bit of love to Cunningham Collective. It is the marketing firm that you started. Tell us a little bit about kind of what this firm does
What
and
we
what kind of
do?
companies you're working with nowadays.
Sure. So we focus and specialize on helping companies position themselves in a marketplace and the messaging that goes along with it, and then the go-to-market planning that goes along with that. So we work exclusively with technology-oriented companies, so microprocessors, software as a service, even technologies that are going into food. We do a lot of that. We do a lot of medical stuff. So anything where there's a technology focus at the core of a product. And we work with really big companies and really tiny companies. So it really doesn't matter the size. What matters is that these are all companies that are working to change the world.
Yeah. Your last company, you sold for a very handsome sum. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the story about that, if it is shareable?
Sure, I think I can share a lot of that. So this was a long time ago, but I formed a public relations agency in 1985 with Steve Jobs and his new company Next as my first client, or not my first, but probably my third client. And I grew it to be a very large firm. We ended up with 7 offices around the world. We had 250 people. We were working with every single technology company, with the exception of Microsoft, because I was kind of on the Apple side of the equation. So I never worked with Microsoft, but I worked with everybody else.
Even back then, eh? Even back then.
Yes, even back then. And I sold it in 2000 to a London-based marketing communications roll-up company at the time called Citygate. Today it's called Huntsworth. But I was lucky enough to sell it for close to 3 times revenue, which was amazing. So,
wow. And why did you decide to sell it at that time?
That's a great question. I have a real, very specific answer to that. One of my clients back then was a company called Motorola, which nobody will remember today. But for many years, Motorola was a leading company in lots of different technologies, radio technologies, but also semiconductors. And I handled all of their semiconductor work, which was based in Austin, Texas. And Motorola was really growing in the semiconductor space, and they desperately needed way more international coverage than my firm was able to supply. So I figured if I sold my business to a larger firm, we would have more international coverage, and that's what happened. So I was able to make that work. Yeah.
So you did all that to make one client happy.
Yes. Well, Motorola was a super important client for me. They were my first client that I had with that business. I had them for 15 years as a client, and they were a very big client of mine, and we were able to do some amazing things with them. So I sort of started with semiconductors, if you will.
Yeah. Wow. You sold it for quite a huge sum. Did you take any time off after you sold the company?
No, I did not. And I regret that. So if anybody has that opportunity, that's what you should do, is take a break. But what happened is the internet bubble burst right when I sold it, like 2 months after I sold it.
2000s,
And that when that happened, it was incredibly challenging. I mean, literally, Silicon Valley like just evaporated overnight. So I was scrambling with laying people off and dealing with clients that were going out of business. And
Mm.
it was a very difficult time. So I could not take the break that I wanted to take.
Wow. And when you started the company, you were like 28 years old or something when you first
I,
started the company, right?
I was 28. Yes.
Yeah. And then and then I guess when you exited, because it was about 15 years later, I guess if I'm doing the math correctly, you
Yep.
were
You are.
43 when you
Yes.
sold it. How did it feel like selling a company for such a large amount at
Well,
43?
I'll tell you, I'll be super honest with all of your listeners and you. It felt fantastic because I was really rich for a very short amount of time. But then because of the internet bubble bursting and my business shrinking, it went like this in a very
Mm.
short amount of time. And so all of the wealth that I thought that I had, I didn't actually really have. It was just on paper and it disappeared overnight. So, but those few days were awesome.
That's amazing. Well, your daughter is also part of your marketing firm,
She
so
is.
she'll have a chance to relive your life,
Yes.
hopefully,
Yes.
and one day become as successful, if not even more, than you. So we're hoping for that. So let's dive in a little bit to your company right now. You mentioned that you're basically working with a lot of different types of companies from a lot of different industries right now, and the marketing agency world has changed so much, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um, just marketing overall has changed so much in the last 5 years. Talk to us a little bit about your thoughts of just marketing and running a marketing consulting firm right now in 2023. It is a difficult
Sure.
time right now.
Yeah, well, wow, I could go in any direction on this, but I guess I'll start by just saying that there's a lot more analytics and math involved in marketing today than there was, 20 years ago or even 15
Yeah.
years ago. As so, understanding these analytics is a critical expertise you have to have as a marketer.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's the good side because it's so cool when you can measure all this stuff. It's like amazing. However, the creation of brands, if you really want to build a brand, it's more than just analytics and math, right? It is all
Yes.
about, there's a lot of creativity involved and there's a lot of strategy involved. And these things don't come from analytics. Analytics are something to be done after the fact, not before the fact. So
Right.
I feel like I'm able to help companies with their strategy and with the creativity involved in brand building, which is sort of my expertise today, in a way that is even more useful than it was 20 years ago because hardly anybody does that anymore. It's been all about demand gen, right? I mean, in the B2B world, for years, it's been all about demand gen, and it's
Yeah.
not just about demand gen. There's strategy involved, there's creativity involved, and by the way, even in the world of demand gen, there's the specificity of what's going into your pipeline and
Right.
and the qualification of that people don't pay enough attention to these days. So
Well, I'd love to dive into that a little bit because you're right. The numbers and demand gen and everything, it was so important. It's kind of changing, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But back to the brand, your focus on brand building. We just recorded an episode yesterday with the CMO of Auto Trader, and if you
ah,
know, listeners probably know Auto Trader. You probably
yes.
know as well, the largest used in car sales platform. And he said one thing that yeah, brand building is difficult to measure, but he uses a test called the barbecue test. Basically, you go to a barbecue and you talk to everyone at the barbecue and see how many people know your brand or know what
Yep.
of your company. That is brand.
You know what I call
What do you
that,
think?
Simon? I call that the cocktail metric because the same thing
Same
happens at
thing.
a cocktail party, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Yes.
think I think the barbecue metric is good if you have a B2C
Yes.
platform. But you're right. If you're a B2B company, not everyone that goes to a barbecue, especially friends and family, are in the world of business. So, but the
Right.
cocktail metric, they're all B2B.
They're all
So
B2B.
they need
Yes.
to know your. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Any other things that you use to just kind of measure the effectiveness of brand nowadays? Like, is
Yeah.
any kind of
It's
special technique you use?
there's a sense of momentum behind it. So again, these are all sense things that you sense, right? You sense there's momentum. You go to meet with a customer and they know who you are and they're excited to meet with you. It's not a drudge, to meet with you. There's a sense of people taking an interest in you. Your website traffic increases. There's a lot of these little things that happen, and they all add up to momentum, really, right? That's the whole point. And if you feel momentum, it's just like when you're running a race, you can feel if you're getting momentum, right? And you can feel if you're lagging in momentum, and it's the same feeling, right? It feels like, wow, I'm surging ahead. I'm ahead of the competition. I'm getting traction. I'm moving forward. It's very much of a feeling thing and not so much of an analytics thing. There are things you can measure. You can certainly measure website traffic. You can certainly measure sales. You can certainly measure how much coverage you're getting in the press. But what you can't measure is that feeling of constant momentum just pushing you forward, like almost like a force from the universe,
I look at it, I always take it back to kind of like when you're dating, and Sophie that's listening is probably going crazy because all I do is mention dating and brand building.
Well, I don't mention that very often anymore since I've been married for 40 years. So
yeah, no, but it's kind of like when you're dating someone, you can measure all the first times, all the messages you send to the person and how quickly they respond back to you. You can measure all the dates that you've gone to and how many times she smiled. You can measure all these things, but at the end of the day, how much the person likes you is kind of like how someone thinks about your brand. There's so
right.
much that you cannot measure, but yet at the end of the day, we still get married to someone. We still get fall into deep relationships. These things, this is brand, and this just
It
comes
is.
with experience over time, right?
It really is. And all those moments in a date, they add up to something either bigger or smaller, right?
Exactly.
And if it's bigger, then you're doing well.
Then you're doing well. Yeah. I want to take it back to what you mentioned about everything is demand gen and everything is analytics. I mean, you know this as well. Google, the cookie deprecation is happening, and it's probably going to happen soon. There's a lot of surveys, a lot of marketers are trying to figure out, number one, when exactly it's going to happen. Google just has kind of publicly announced that they're deciding to transition into like phasing out third-party cookies next year. And a lot of marketers are trying to figure out what's going to happen when there's no third-party data and everything is first-party. It's almost going to eliminate demand gen to some sense, and it just becomes branding. It's all just brand awareness.
Well, there's actually if you look at ad technology, this is actually being addressed incredibly well in that arena. I sit on the board of a public company called The Trade Desk, which is the leading ad tech company outside of Google and Facebook. And basically what they are having technology do today for them is get first-person data. We don't need the third-person data anymore. Now we can get it directly from the first person. So the cookies are really not going to matter that much, over the long run, because there's a new way of doing it now.
Yeah. Wow. So you got the inside take. So in your opinion, when you talk to these guys and all these marketing leaders, does there seem to be a fear of the third party deprecation, or it's just like, no, we'll just find a way around it, kind of thing?
I think there was a great fear when Google first started talking about this. What was that? 2 years ago, at least, maybe
2
3
years ago. Yeah. 2020.
Everybody was petrified, just like everybody was petrified when we first started talking about a recession. Or I remember Y2K, when the century turned, everyone thought their computers were going to turn off. I mean, there's all this fear that dusts up around new change like that is a new way of doing things or another way of looking at things. And so there was a lot of fear then. I think that has really died down in the last, say, 6 months or so, because there are other technologies. And also it's bringing back the notion of, perhaps it's not all about demand gen. Maybe some of it is actually about building a brand that people love and that they want to continue to go back to. So,
and I think I love that as well. I can't speak on your behalf, but I think I love that we're going back a little bit.
I think we are, and it's very exciting. So the coolest thing to me that's happening in technology marketing, though, is that because there are so many products out there, I mean, I happen to know how many products there are in the MarTech space because it's my world. There are 8,000 technology products in the MarTech space
Wow.
today, which means there are at least 8,000 in the fintech space, at least 8,000 in the HR space. There's probably millions of technology companies out there today. And the thing of it is, you can't differentiate anymore based on your product because there's too much competition that is too much like what you're doing, too many copycats out there. So what you have to do today is think like a consumer company, and you have to think about building a brand and think about creating a reason for people to come to your product that isn't the product. And this is new for technology marketing, totally new. We've always relied on the differentiation in the actual product, but that was when there were only a few thousand technology products. Now there's a few million, and you have to resort to thinking like a consumer, like we're all selling toothpaste. And why is my toothpaste better than your toothpaste? Well, the ingredients of the toothpaste is exactly the same. It's this
Yeah.
brand versus this brand. So I think it's bringing back brand, and I love that.
Yeah. I mean, typically when we get guests on, we like to talk about kind of things that you're doing to drive more revenue, kind of like your marketing
Okay.
channels, marketing buckets. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about that, like your top kind of 2 or 3 buckets,
What I
and just
do,
like
you mean?
yeah for Cunningham Collective?
Yeah, this is an embarrassing answer. I will answer it, but it's embarrassing. I don't do much of anything, which is not a good answer. I don't use any of the marketing channels. I mean, I wrote my book, and the book has been absolutely an awesome attractor of new business for me,
Hmm.
and book reviews and that sort of thing. But basically, I don't do any demand gen. I don't even attend conferences anymore like I used to. But one thing that I do have that people, I mean, I'm old, right? I'm an old marketing person, and I have a huge network of people that I've been building up over the course of my whole career. So all of my new business comes from that network, comes from
Hmm.
people I either met before, worked with before, or they even worked for me before. I have a lot of new business in my pipeline that is people who have been my employee in a previous era of their lives. So for me, it's my network is my number one channel.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so let's dive into that because speaking with you just for the 20-30 minutes that we spoke a few weeks ago, your your network seems incredible. You must know at least a couple of thousand of people. Like
Oh
it
yeah,
is mind blowing. Like
for sure.
I can count on I can count on probably like on one screen the people I know, but yours probably like scrolls after scroll. What is your secret when it comes to like if this is your biggest superpower, how do you what do you think differentiates you, and how can other people get as good as you in this area?
Wow. So I do have a very large network. I mean, for one thing, because I had a PR firm for many years, I had over 6,000 people through my door working for me over the
Wow.
course of the time I had that company. So there's 6,000 right there. I also belong to a couple of fellowships. I'm on a bunch of boards, and those networks then become part of my network. So I do have several thousand people in my network, if you will, and I try to communicate with them. I don't treat them like a community, though. I will say that. I
Yeah.
just simply I would guess probably every year, every 9 months or so, I send out I call it an Andy update. It's not a formal newsletter. It's just here's what I'm doing. This is what's going on in my life. This is what's going on in my business, and I just communicate with them occasionally in that way. And so, what I would just say to other folks who are trying to build a network, which is really hard today, right? Since the pandemic, it's really
Yeah.
hard because people want to have relationships with people that they've actually physically interacted with in person. And when you don't have the opportunity to interact with someone in person, it's really challenging. So you have to go out of your way to build that network, to invite people out for a cup of coffee, tell them you'll meet them, at this restaurant for a quick lunch, or go to a conference where those people are going to be, and then make an effort to actually meet people and shake their hand. I just had a wonderful experience happen to me the other day. I went to the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference in San Francisco I want to say it was either December or January. I forget when it was. I think it's January. And I just got a call from one of the guys I met there just the other day to do some work for his company. So this is how many months later, 7 months, 8 months later. So you never know where these things are going to come back to you. But I made the effort to go. I made the effort to reach out and talk to people, shake hands, exchange cards if anybody has cards anymore, and most people don't, but he did. So, and then call him a couple times over the course of the last 7 months and say, hey, how you doing? It's all about people relationships. And that's the one thing that just really never changes. As long as humans are humans, we need human relationships.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing about marketing. We've had, I think, 2 other marketing agencies come on the show out of our 77 episodes so far.
Wow.
So you're in that elite few.
Well, thank you, Simon.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Especially some of these larger deals, when you're talking about the Ciscos of the world, sometimes these deals, they come in 6 months when they really need you. Sometimes it takes 3 years, sometimes 4 years for them
Takes a
to
long time. The
finally
bigger the
come
company,
around.
the bigger the company, the longer it takes to sell anything to them. That's why
Yeah.
if you're a startup company and you're trying to get traction, going into the enterprise is probably not the best first place for you to go, because it takes so long to get traction, and you can't raise money today without traction. You have to have customers.
Yeah. And it's also beneficial for you to make these mistakes with
Yes.
the smaller companies that are more understanding of these mistakes, because they're also going through these
Yes.
hurdles
Good
and these
point.
challenges, right?
Really good
Where
point.
if you go straight to the large companies, the expectations are so much higher.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just kind of slowly graduate, right? You got to
Yep.
learn to crawl before you walk. Now, one last point about networking. With 6,000-ish, 10,000 people in your network, how do you, I can't even imagine. I can't even, sometimes I don't even have time to call back my girlfriend. How do you, and if she's listening, she's going to laugh.
Here's some
But
advice. Don't do that anymore.
don't do that anymore. How do you do it all? Like, what, do you have a playbook? If you have a playbook, it seems disingenuous. A lot of people are using different tools like CRMs to track people that they know so they don't forget. But with so many people, is it just by feel, kind of like what you're saying in the beginning, by branding? Oh, you know what? A few months ago, I met with this guy. Or is there like some kind of method to all the madness with all the
Well,
people that you know?
I am an advocate of creating a method to the madness, but I don't actually have that. So what I try to do is, first of all, I try to treat everybody really well, right? As if it just, like the golden rule: treat everyone as if how you would like to be treated. So I meet with here's another philosophy I have. I meet with everyone. Anybody who calls me, I meet with them. And the reason for that is that I want to put myself out there, right? And then I can make the decision after the meeting whether or not there's somebody that I really want to continue a relationship with or not. So I meet with everyone. I'm very kind to everyone. I care about people a lot, and I just want to. I have a deep down desire to help people succeed. So I like mentoring people. I like helping companies succeed, and so there's sort of this reality thing underneath it all that just says I really just like people. So when you like people, they tend to like you back. And you create a thing. But I won't lie that I do get people who call me and say, hey, we met last year at the blah, blah, blah. Love to see you again. And I'm like, who's that person? I don't remember that person. I can't, and I have this wonderful assistant, the amazing Richard, I call him. And he remembers a lot of things that I can't remember. So that's very helpful. But there's some he doesn't remember either. And so I just, sometimes you just have to fake it that you remember them.
Yeah. And you see, like, so I have a little bit of a method. Curious to hear your take.
Oh, love to hear it.
Going back to what you were saying, post-COVID, everyone wants to connect, and so I started doing these founder happy hours locally in Vancouver.
Good idea.
And it was easy when there were just 6 founders grabbing a beer, and then it became 20 and 30 and then 70
Ooh,
founders.
wow.
And they're always different founders. And I think just in the course of the last 10 months, and I'm very new to this world, I'm very new to
Yeah.
networking, as an introvert myself, it was, it kind of came, all these networking things came out of necessity. It wasn't like, I'm not a natural born a networker by any means, but I find myself also forgetting names all the time. So nowadays I have like an Excel sheet. It's very basic, but it just has everyone that I've met, and I just write one or two notes
Yep.
of where we met. Otherwise,
I
I'll
think
forget.
that's a great
Um,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't have anything else aside from that. And then I always connect with them on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn religiously,
Yep.
and LinkedIn has their face on it
Yep.
automatically, so I don't have to track
Just,
anything. And so I just
yeah.
kind of remember what people look like and what they do a little bit. And for me, that is my method. But beyond that, everything else is just, yeah, if I start using tools and everything, it's going to take up too much time. But I just hate it, that moment when I forget people and what they do. I don't like
Yeah.
that, so I started
I know.
tracking it.
I
Thoughts
think
on
it's
that?
great to track it, and LinkedIn is a fabulous tool. I mean, it's a wonderful tool for that. But in my little circle, I tend to interact with more people that are more my age and people who are, CEOs of big companies, and these people don't go on LinkedIn. They don't use LinkedIn, so it's a
Yeah.
little bit more challenging when they're not on LinkedIn, and a lot of people aren't these days. Of the older people who are in CEO slots,
So what would you do in that case? Like, if like,
Well,
what's the best way to
I'm pretty
remember?
good. I'm pretty good at remembering them. Like I had this wonderful opportunity recently to have an hour-long conversation with Frank Slootman, who is the CEO of Snowflake.
Right.
Snowflake's the big data cloud company, and they're
Yeah.
enormously successful. And he's not on LinkedIn, and so. But I'll never forget my meeting with him. And in fact, I'm going to put a chapter about Snowflake into my second book, and that's one of the reasons that I was talking to him. So I will remember him because I will have written about him. So if I have an opportunity to write about somebody, either in a post or in my book or some other way, it helps. It helps to kind of write about somebody because then it ingrains it in your head.
That's amazing. Well, it seems like your personal brand is very strong. A lot of people, very well connected, and so that's kind of drives a lot for your business, and that's the secret sauce.
It helps.
I guess we haven't done hot sauce in a while, but let me ask you a quick question, whether it's answerable or not. How much revenue are you making currently at
Yes, well,
Cunningham
that's
Collective?
the one. Yeah, I'd rather not answer that question, but so I guess we'll have to do a shot, eh?
Okay, let's do
All right.
that. All
All
right,
right.
let's get this here.
Get
Oh,
ready.
all right. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh,
Oh,
how you doing?
yeah.
You need you got a really hot one. Mine isn't that hot.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you talk for the next little while,
Okay.
but maybe I'll just
And
quickly.
I told you this when we chatted earlier. I'm not much of a hot sauce person, so I had to find something that was very mild, and that's what they have here in Lynchburg. So it's great.
Yeah, I'm usually good, but at 4 a.m. in the morning, that's
Ooh,
tough.
that is tough.
So, wow,
Well, hopefully you'll survive. Is your temperature going up?
it is. It's definitely getting hot, but luckily there's a little bit of a breeze from the AC
Okay.
coming in. Um, that helps a lot. So, one of your superpowers is obviously your network. You seem like you're super well connected. You're also on a bunch of boards. Tell us about all the board positions you have.
I am, and I'll tell you, it's being on a board is a very rewarding thing because it enables you, gives you an opportunity to use all the experience that you have for the benefit of the company on whose board you sit. So you feel like you're really contributing, but you're not going to work every day for that company, right? You're not putting in the 50 or 60 hours a week. So I mentioned I sit on the board of the Trade Desk, which is a public ad tech company doing really, really well, and they're just crushing it in the market. So I'm very proud that I'm on that board because I think those guys are amazing. And then I sit on the board of a media company called Woodward Communications Inc., and they do a few newspapers as well as some other things, some other publications business publications that they produce. I am on the board of a company called Mixer, and Mixer is it's a little bit like Slack, but it enables people inside of companies, especially resource groups, ERGs, to plan activities, to get together, to coordinate what they're doing. So it's a really great tool to keep people connected inside the workplace. I'm also on the board of a couple of nonprofits. One is the Aspen Institute, which I'm very excited about. Aspen Institute is an organization that's been around for many decades, and they are dedicated to convening people to create a better world, essentially. So we convene people all over the world in political situations, business situations, in order to create dialogue so that people can talk through the big issues of our time. It's a wonderful organization. I'm also on the board of the Computer History Museum, which is a really great place based in Mountain View, California, that contains all of the artifacts of computing history from way, way, way back. And they are in the process of creating a new kind of museum that is, in addition to all of the artifacts that they have, they are going to be having a digital repository of stories, articles, and ways to learn about computing history. So I'm super excited about that. And lastly, I'm on the board of an arts organization called Leonardo. And Leonardo has a publication in the art and technology space, which is an area that I'm very passionate about. We merged my nonprofit arts organization, which was called 01, with Leonardo about a year and a half ago. And so I am now on that board, and they are strongly supported by ASU in Arizona. So very exciting to be a part of all of that. So that's pretty much my board situation.
So I don't know if my brain is not working because of the hot sauce. I lost track. That was like eight, 7 more. I don't know. I lost track. So we obviously do a lot of networking, and like you mentioned, a lot of your network is of older folks, or like folks that are your age, older, maybe younger. Do you do a lot of do you meet and network with a lot of even younger folks? There are a lot of Gen Zers and
Yes.
millennials that are now becoming CEOs and founders of successful companies. Do you do a lot of networking with them as well?
Yeah, definitely. For one thing, I'm really lucky to have two kids who are in that age group. I have a 32-year-old daughter who works with me and a 27-year-old son who has developed a product for us. So I get to meet with all of their friends and hang out with them a lot, which is really great. But also, anytime you go to an industry gathering or anything like that, it's filled with young people and older people, right? So it's
Right.
great to have a mix of those kinds of people. And through the organizations I belong to, for example, Aspen Institute,
Yeah.
there are lots of ways to interact with people in their mid-20s all the way up to their 90s. So I think it's really healthy for every age group to interact with people of different ages because you
Exactly.
learn something. You learn something from everyone. I learn from my own kids every single day. It's a fabulous thing. It's not just
Yeah.
me teaching them; they teach me, and I've taken that approach as a parent as well.
Well, just speaking with you for the last 40 minutes or so, and then kind of 40 minutes last time, about like roughly an hour and a half. I feel a lot of young energy from you, and until you told me your age, I had no idea. And
Oh well, thank you,
I think
Simon.
that's the yeah no I think that's the benefit. Like for me, I'm like the old guy in the room with my team, right? I'm
Yeah,
I'm also 32. We mentioned it,
right.
same age as your daughter,
Yep.
and a lot of my team members, some of them now are like 20 years old, 19,
Wow.
just like kind of second, third year university kind of thing.
Yep.
I learned so much. They're just different perspective. But I also, through my founder networking events, I run a lot of founder happy hours locally in Vancouver, now expanding to Toronto.
Oh,
and
great.
it's just for seed stage and Series A founders. And
Okay, great.
my philosophy is, I believe business can also be fun. Is my philosophy, and I think everyone brings their best self when the mood in the room is light and fun, rather
Yep.
than serious and corporate. It makes networking and making friends a lot easier. And
Oh,
when it
yeah.
comes to founders, your best resources are sometimes the people in your network, like you mentioned. And so
Yes.
yeah, I have people that are 50, 40s and 50s, so about 2 decades older than me, and I'm meeting people that are 1 or 2 decades younger than me as well. And I agree with you. It is just so important. You learn so much, and you exchange a
Yeah,
lot of things with
you
each other.
enrich your life tremendously when you have diversity around you, and that's diversity
Yeah,
of age, all the different forms of diversity that we have. So that's how you learn. That's how you grow. It's a very important piece of the way that people should be approaching their careers, right?
yeah. Um, one of the biggest challenges for a lot, like obviously everyone wants to network with people that are as experienced as yourself, and even like the CEO and founder of Snowflakes or whatever. Like everyone wants to meet these people, but sometimes it's hard because when you get to that stage, you have a network around you. Like you already have,
Hmm.
6,000, 8,000 people in your network. Do you really need 8,001 people in your network? Right? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I
How
sure do. Yeah.
For people that are listening and they're like, I want to be able to connect with Andy. I want to be able to connect with people that are like yourself. What tip would you give them? How can they get into your circle or be able to even have a meeting with you?
So I think a thoughtful outreach is probably the best thing to do, whether that's through X or Facebook. I don't really use Facebook very much, or LinkedIn is a good way to do it. And just make it a thoughtful, interesting thing to make the person on the other end say, wow, that sounds like a really interesting person,
Hmm.
not just, hey, Joe, I'd really like to meet with you. You see all of these sales pitches on
Yeah.
LinkedIn all the time, right? And they say, Andy,
Yeah.
hey, I was thinking about your company the other day, and maybe you need more lead generation. Like I never. That's a horrible way to connect with somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, an interesting, thoughtful way to interact with someone it makes you stand out, right? Don't forget, every human is his or her own brand, right? They are their own brand, and the way that they interact with their touch points with their audiences is constant proof of what that brand is. And so you want to differentiate yourself. You want to treat yourself like a brand.
Yeah.
So you should stand out.
Yeah. The way I tell some of the younger folks that I'm mentoring nowadays is every single outreach, when you meet someone for the first time, just remember they are the most important person.
Yes,
They care about themselves way more than they care about you. So if you can find a way to bring value and enrich their lives by interacting with you, then they will respond to your email. Like
exactly.
find out
If you're
what
if
resonates
you're
with them.
the if you're the younger person in the group, or the less experienced person, or the less famous person, you want to definitely bring some kind of value, and it doesn't have to be huge.
Yeah,
Sometimes just a great smile is that value, right? But sometimes it's more than that. So you have to be thoughtful about it.
yeah. Um, I'm curious. You meet with all these big companies, and your company's doing well. It's very healthy. Uh, who are some of your larger clients that you're working with nowadays? Like, or the largest? Is
The
that
largest that I'm
disclosable?
working with today, let me think about that. So I'm working with a new semiconductor company. Well, they're not that new. They're about 6 or 7 years old, called Grok, which I'm very, very excited about. They are making, I believe, the next processor that is going to replace the GPU. I'm very excited about them.
Holy smokes!
So as far as big though, they're not huge. Let's see, who am I working with that's really big today?
I'm just fishing for some more hot sauce. I'm a little
I
thirsty.
Okay, well, I think I don't mind telling people who the clients are. I just don't. I don't think at this moment I'm actually engaged with anyone that's huge.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but
Let's do.
I'll do a shot with you
Let's
anyway
yeah.
because of
Let's do
that.
it.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll do a shot for not having any big clients today.
No. And most marketing firms, when you work with large clients, clients typically don't want to show that
That's
because
true.
they want to keep you, right? They want to keep your talent. So.
Anyway, we'll do
Oh,
this and then I'll tell you
yeah.
something. Okay.
Hmm.
How you doing?
It's getting better, but
That's
still.
good. That's good. I forgot the big company that I'm working with today. It's called Synopsys. I just won this piece of business. I'm very excited about working with them. They are in the chip design space, so they have software and tools to help semiconductor companies make their chips. And they
Oh,
are the leader. They're the 800-pound gorilla in the market, and they're an amazing group of people. So,
what's their revenue or market cap?
I
Do
don't.
you
I
know?
should know the answer to that, and I don't.
Okay.
Is that another
Okay.
hot sauce problem?
No. So I think aside from all of this, your superpower in networking, is there another superpower that you possess that maybe is important for founders to possess? Do you think?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about this the other day, and I would have to say that I'm very good at connecting what appear to be disparate dots into a constellation that makes sense. So those dots can come from the company itself, or really, and when you've been doing it as long as I have, it's really wonderful to take some dots that you learned about in this industry and apply them to this industry. So I'm pretty good at taking lessons learned and ideas and concepts from other places and applying them in new places to give people a way to think about strategy that is unique. So I'm good at putting things together into a strategy and taking it from all over the place. I don't know what you'd call that.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's just strategy.
Yeah, strategy. Yes, I'm good at strategy. That's right. I,
Yeah,
I am very much good at strategy. Yeah. I
that's
love
amazing.
strategy. Yeah. I love figuring out how to do something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah. You know what? I have another question that I believe will invoke a shot of hot sauce, but I'm gonna leave that one out for now.
Okay.
We're gonna change things up slightly. Um,
Okay.
just want to hear a little bit more about your background, a little bit, like not your work background, but your personal and family upbringing background. What
Oh,
was,
wow.
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, because so much of Andy and Simon and whoever's listening as well, so much of we think about work all the time, work, and so much of that is just from work experience and mentors and people around you, but we forget that we started off in a household with a mom and a dad, and so much about our values and our strengths were instilled from an early age. What was life like for you growing up?
Sure. I'm going to give you the short version because unfortunately I do have an Aspen Institute board call in 3 minutes, but I'll give you the very quick answer. So I grew up in a small suburb of Chicago with an alcoholic father and a codependent mother. So I didn't have a real great, I would say, childhood. I moved out when I was 18 in order to find my own way, which I did. And I ended up getting into Northwestern University as a music major. I played the trumpet. I was a
Hmm.
performance classical trumpet player. I learned halfway through that I was good but not great, and so I ended up changing over to English literature, and I got into the creative writing program at Northwestern. And I did that for a while. I was able to get a job writing for a trade magazine about trucks after I graduated from school. I then moved on to public relations, and I worked at a big firm in Chicago called Burson Marsteller. I worked on the technology stuff. This was back in the very, very early 80s, and I learned about writing public relations stuff about high technology things. And then I had this opportunity to interview at Burson Marsteller in Silicon Valley. So
How old were
I
you
flew
at that
out.
time?
How old was I? I was 20. I think I was 26. I was 26.
Okay.
So I moved out to Silicon. I got a job, but not at Burson Marsteller. I didn't want to. I made the decision not to continue there, and I interviewed at another agency called Regis McKenna. And Regis had offered me the opportunity to lead the Macintosh team, the Macintosh launch team. So
And this
that's how
was
I got
at
involved in
26,
Macintosh. I
age
was
of 26.
26. Yeah. So I came out and worked for Regis and ran the Apple account for the launch of Macintosh. And then, as history knows, Steve Jobs got fired a couple of years later. I decided that was a good time to start my own company because I always wanted to have my own company. And I never thought I'd see Steve again. But 10 days into me founding my own company, he called and asked me if I would come and help him with a press conference he was doing in his backyard to announce his new company Next. And the fact that he was taking 7 people from Apple and applying them to Next. And so I went over to his house and I suggested strongly that he not do the press conference because he didn't really have anything to say. And he reluctantly, but he did agree, told me I had to go out and get rid of everybody who was milling around his yard. So I made them all go away. And kind of the rest is history. I ended up working with Steve for a lot of work that he had me do with Next. And then he acquired Pixar. I got to do the relaunch of Pixar. And then that's what built up my public relations agency. So I feel like I've been I wrote a little story about myself that I gave as a speech several years ago, and I called it Andy in Wonderland because I really felt like I was Alice in Wonderland. I landed in this amazing place out here in Silicon Valley, and I just am grateful for it every minute. Being a part of the things that change the world is just so inspiring.
That is amazing. Well, I know you got to get going to a board call, so we won't take up any more of your time. Thank you so much, Andy, for jumping on. We'll definitely have to do round 2. Maybe get your daughter as well.
I'd love for you to do it with my daughter. Yes, and I'll do one more shot with you just to say goodbye. Okay?
Yeah. Yes. Of course. Let's do that.
Can you handle it? Can you take it?
I can handle it. And you're always based in San Francisco, like usually, like most of the year?
Well, I have a home in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, so I sometimes go there, but I'm either in Sausalito or in Jackson. But today I'm in Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Okay, cheers. Well, my founder happy hours are expanding. I started in Vancouver, and I'm doing one November 2nd in Toronto. And the plan next year is to expand into the US. So happy to chat.
That would be great.
If there's room in San Francisco, if you think there's an opportunity there, happy to expand it there.
Oh, there's totally an opportunity. Totally an opportunity there. So when you're ready to do that, Simon, reach out and we'll talk about it. We'll go grab a coffee and we'll talk about building a founders happy hour in San Francisco.
All right. I'll bring some hot sauce from Korea.
Bring some hot sauce.
I'll give it to you. All right. Thank you, Andy.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you, Simon. Take care.
Hey, hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I did. My mouth was burning on fire for about 30 minutes there, so I had to take a quick break before I recorded this, but I really just wanted to say thank you for tuning in. Most of us work at home nowadays, and we're all just in our pajamas, in our t-shirts, and in our hoodies. It just feels really fun and really light, and that's the kind of vibe that I'm trying to give. If there's anything that you want to add into the show, new segments or new topics to talk about, feel free to throw it into the comments below. Thank you so much again. Would not be here without your support. Until next time, peace out. Hope to see you soon.